Hello, everybody. It's Secret Spaces time, not the usual time, a special session. We're doing this one with Axelar today. They're going to be talking about our recent announcement about cross-chain privacy, utilizing the unique features of both of the projects, both Secret Network and Axelar. This is Tor, again, from the Secret Network account. We're going to take the first few minutes to get everybody up here on stage and invited. Do us a favor, as always, please push this link around to all your different communities anywhere in the cosmos. You know people care about cross-chain, you know they care about interoperability, and you know they usually and should care about privacy. Please help us out. Share the link, get people in the space. Let's educate them about what's possible when you start plugging all these amazing cross-chain projects in the cosmos together. So we'll kick off in just a couple minutes. Let's start inviting all of today's participants up on stage. All right. We're starting to get everybody up here. Thanks everybody again for joining us. We've got everybody sharing the link around. We've already got Secret Labs up on stage. We've already got Sergey up on stage. We've got Guy up on stage. So we're going to start very shortly. Give me just one more minute. I want to make sure this link has gone out in all channels, and then we'll move straight into the meat of this. I know everybody dying to know a little bit more here. We've got some incredible technical speakers available to fill in all the gaps. Just give us a second while we make sure this link gets around to everybody. Please note, I have also just pinned a new tweet from Secret explaining how you can claim your exclusive Axelar X Secret badge for attending today's space. We do give secret badges away for every Secret Spaces that you attend. Today is no exception. Check that link for all the instructions. You can do it on desktop while you're listening here in the background. Just click that link. It'll take you to the claim page. You'll just need to connect Kepler. The claim code today for today's Axelar secret badge is all capital letters, cross-chain. The code is cross-chain. So go ahead, use that to claim today's secret badge. For those of you who have been collecting every secret badge for attending spaces, I can promise you that that will matter. But today, just grab that secret badge. Let's kick off. We've got everybody here on stage. Don't want to waste any more time. We're 5 minutes in. So we're just going to kick off today's Secret Spaces. We have Axelar. We have Guy from Secret Labs. We're going to talk a little bit about what this latest announcement means for people in both ecosystems. But let's start with personal intros. We'll start with Sergey, and then we'll move to Guy, and then we'll get into the meat of things. We'll revisit this week's blog post announcement and get into some of the details that are in there. I'll have some questions. We always leave the end for audience questions, but right now, let's go over to the personal introductions to start. So Sergey, you're first. Go ahead.
Hey everyone, great to be here. This is Sergey from Axelar. I'm one of the co-founders. My background is technical distributed systems, cryptography. Helped to build Algorand and launch it to the market, and since then been working on the cross-chain communication. So excited to be here.
Amazing. How about Guy? Who is Guy?
Yeah, who's that guy? Hey everyone, Guy. I'm CEO of Secret Labs and the founder of Secret. Similar background, I guess, in a way to Sergey. Not quite. More on the applied system side. So we actually come from I think the same university. My background is really in secure computation and this whole idea of how can we compute over encrypted data. That's actually what kind of led to the creation of Secret after like a series of papers and early research, and that's about it.
Wonder how come we never intersected at MIT, Guy. You were at the Media Lab?
I was at the Media Lab, but we're at the same time even. I was there from 2013 kind of like to 2016. I think you were earlier, no?
No, I was there at the same time. Yeah, I got out 2015.
That's funny. Which actually, who was your advisor? We're making a private conversation here in in a public setting. But who was your advisor?
Vinod.
Vinod. Okay, yeah. I was more with, I guess, the systems people maybe. I mean, I was in Media Lab with the CISA, like the more like Srini and a few other people. Yeah, so maybe that's why.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah, you guys are huge nerds. Congrats.
Yay.
Just kidding. I was next door. Doing the less interesting stuff. But Really awesome to have a nice MIT reunion right on stage here, guys. This is super cool. And in the cosmos more generally. So, with all that said, man, I would love to get more into that individual backgrounds, like what gets you guys particularly passionate about working on this kind of distributed system stuff, or in Guy's case, specifically the privacy research. But let's at least start, since this is Secret Spaces, we probably got a lot of people here familiar with Secret, very familiar with Secret and its privacy technologies, maybe not as familiar with Axelar specifically. So, Sergey, go ahead and just give us the high level view, and maybe we'll get much deeper. What is Axelar?
Yeah, so at Axelar, we're working on secure cross-chain communication. Our whole goal is to make sure we can connect different ecosystems to allow for applications, assets, and users to compose and interact with one another, right? So if you have an application on Cosmos, if you have a user on Ethereum, how do you allow them to, be at the same space and interact with one another, right? And so that's what really we're focused on, building kind of the core infrastructure and the protocols to make those connections as simple as possible. We started to roll out a network about 4.5 months ago, connected 15 different chains from Cosmos to various EVM chains like Avalanche, Ethereum, Moonbeam with Polkadot, Polygon, a bunch of others, and kind of working with a lot of different ecosystems and applications to unite them and have a better connectivity across the whole ecosystem.
Sweet. So now let's get into why we're all here. What does this mean then for Axelar working with Secret? We published a blog post earlier this week. We had a press release go out talking a little bit at a high level. The headline is, collaborating on private cross-chain messaging, NFT transfers, a few of these different use cases. What is it that you see as the greatest immediate potential, let's say, of this relationship? What are you most excited to see explored, combining all of this cross-chain potential with programmable privacy?
Yeah, so maybe I can start and then Guy can, give his take. But what I'm most excited about, right, is the ability to kind of compose different, services, right, across the ecosystem. And so, in Secret and in particular, I think the team is really heads down kind of a focus on the privacy aspect, right? Private compute, private assets, and so on and so forth. So how do I compose these privacy elements, right, with other applications in the ecosystem? On the internet, as an example, those things are quite trivial, right? We know, there's like encryption protocols you can always apply on top of your data or on top of your traffic as you're sending it from, one medium to another, right? So we have encrypted messaging, we have encrypted, browsing, and so on and so forth. In the blockchain space, it's not so easy, right? Because you have to have a compute element, right, that's sort of stored somewhere, and you have to have encryption in use, what we'll call, right, where you can preserve the privacy of some data or some elements while still doing kind of computation of it, or still doing the function that it's supposed to do, right? Like trading NFTs or exchanging them, auctioning them, and so on and so forth. And so to me, I guess like this, connection and the collaboration is really about extending these types of features, right, for the whole ecosystem. This is not a short-term thing. This is kind of a, there's various milestones that we'll have to accomplish to get there. But, in the longer term, that's why I'm excited. And so in the same way as, you can encrypt messages on the internet or have private browsing, right, you would have these types of layers that will be available to you to give privacy to your users.
That's I'll actually build on what you mentioned and say what I'm excited about. So it's very similar. Like even if you go back to the old days of like, just look at like my own like original papers that kind of served as a basis, you would see that like we're essentially saying, ideally we can be kind of like this privacy layer that anyone can use. And very early on, like even before Cosmos, I personally was a big believer in a multi-chain world, and apparently it took like 5 years to get to that vision to be done. And in that sense, like I think all like Cosmos as an ecosystem deserves all of the all of the compliments of actually showing that like the future can be multi-chain. It can be multi-chain done the right way, not kind of like in a very, very, let's say, flaky way. But that was kind of like always our vision, to be, as Sergey is saying, this sort of privacy as a service, like a global secure computation system that essentially gives you privacy as a service. It doesn't matter what you build in Web3. It doesn't matter what blockchain you're running on. You need these privacy capabilities, and you want to use essentially some components are going to have to use these capabilities, and that's why we are really interested in becoming this privacy layer, privacy as a service solution. But there was always this like tiny wrinkle, right? Which is, how do you interconnect different blockchains? Like how do you actually do that? And clearly, like, this is something that people have been talking for a long time, and people in secret know, but if you're not in secret, maybe you don't know. Like, we've had these flaky, I mean, they do their job, but like these very ad hoc bridges for tokens to Ethereum, Binance Smart Chains, all that. Obviously IBC, and we kind of showed very early on, like even on just the transaction on private asset side, how you can very quickly turn like any asset into a private asset, which is was extremely cool, and a lot of people have been and are using those capabilities. It's very interesting, but it's the tip of the iceberg. That's not the end game, right? And it was always clear to us, even when we did this, that someday in the future, hopefully not the too far future, there would come better interoperability solutions for Cosmos, but for everywhere else. You needed something more robust. You needed a real strong team that can execute. And I'm just super excited about the future. Very, very optimistic about what we can do with those capabilities.
I mean, that all sounds absolutely incredible. I would love to get in depth really into anything else that you think is worth highlighting here, right? Like anything you think from the Axelar side, Sergey, that the secret community should know about this. Guy, anything from the secret side that you think like you wish more people knew about secret who aren't familiar with it, like you were starting to say. A lot of people here might be very familiar with how secret works. Or another thing that I'd love to talk about as well is just, there's a lot of confusion as to the difference between all these interoperability pieces, especially if you don't work on it day in and day out. The difference between how IBC works, how these sort of bridges, like the current ETH bridges, or that are similar to like Avalanche's bridge setup. Like, I've seen a lot out there about like the weaknesses and strengths of certain bridge models, right? Like, is this getting us a lot closer to the end game? Like, what do you guys see as the end game for interoperability, and how Axelar is contributing to that? All of this is kind of vague, I know. So, but you guys are the experts. I'm sort of deferring to you guys to lead wherever you want this conversation to go.
So again, maybe I'll start from our angle, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say. From our angle, we built bridges, and those bridges were meant to be secure enough, good enough, relatively stable, and that was like an ongoing process, but it was never our focus. And it was never something that meant to be like, for the next 20 years, like that kind of infrastructure, because we did expect there to be better standardization. So in our case, what we did was, we built a fairly federated, semi-trusted, multi-sig bridge with several known entities. SCRT Labs is one of them, Figment, a few others are as well. And it has very limited functionality, it does its work, not always in the best way possible, and it's fine. But to me, when it comes to bridges, like everything needs to be top notch, because as we can see from like attacks and hacks and all that, the weakest link is often the bridge. It is the weakest link, and it's a very, very, it's not just technically hard, engineering hard, scientifically hard in some respects. It also needs to provide great user experience. It needs to have proper DevOps and be set up the right way and stress test in all kinds of environments. It's a really complicated piece of machinery. and the right way to go, in my opinion, bridges as opposed to like other things, is either a winner, maybe not a winner takes all, but like a very, unlike blockchains where I think there could be like so many. I think in bridges eventually, we're converging to just it's a meritocracy, and we're converging to the best of the best, and that's the right way to go, because you really want your bridges interconnecting all those systems to just be like super super solid and fleshed out.
Yeah, no, just to add to that, right? Like, I think the way that I view it is that kind of the ecosystem came to think about interoperability, unfortunately, by necessity, right? Kind of if you look at the internet and evolution of it, interoperability and kind of cross-chain communication protocols and standards were established, 10 years before we saw any real applications or use cases, right? Or at least in the massive scale. So kind of the infrastructure and mechanics of it were kind of figured out. And I think in the blockchain space, it came out as a reverse where, different chains and different use cases saw the need for interoperability, including like secret, right? And a lot of kind of a one-off solutions were rolled out, right, to address the needs. Most of them have been rolled out that are kind of federated or centralized solutions just to serve a specific need of a use case, right? Like either bridging tokens or kind of a one-off connectivity with this chain or that chain. And so, which is fine, but kind of long term, this is not the sustainable path because, as Guy said, this is a kind of a very complicated problem. This is something that has huge networking effects if you do it right? So the whole point, what we're doing with Axelar is that, any new connection that's added to the networks is going to automatically interconnect with everything else, right? So you have huge, strong networking effects, and you have to design the stack and the architecture to allow for connectivity of hundreds or, hundreds of thousands and millions of chains down the line. So very different architecture. You have to approach it in a many way, as opposed to kind of a point-to-point architectures. And the security, is of course something you have to think about very, very, carefully. And I guess like the way that I like to think about it is that, traditionally we've been talking about kind of bridges, right? And moving, almost like moving by roads and cars, and you can do all of that, right? And you can have your own car, and you can, do your own maintenance and kind of put the gasoline in the tank. And I think what we're trying to do is almost create like an air traffic control system, right? With, airplanes and airports where, anybody can build their sort of plane and travel between them. You have kind of many different sort of hubs of connectivity you can go through, and, you don't have to think about, fuel in your own tank, right? You can just pay for the ticket and fly with all the convenience that comes with it. So that's the way, I like to think about it, and kind of what we're doing is kind of really this transport layer to allow everybody to continue optimizing their applications, right, and their use cases, and still serve the whole blockchain ecosystem. And I think the final point that I'll just mention there, kind of the end goal for us is to make sure that, regular users can interact with anything they want with very simple experiences, right? And today, we are forcing users to do this bridging as a function, which is completely useless, right? Like, we don't want to see any of this being done by the users. We want this to be automated and done at the back end by the protocols, right? And now it's almost like every user is their own router, right? Where they get an asset on one chain, they have to go to like some bridging front end, they move it to another chain. That's a job of a router, essentially, right? And so kind of with a lot of the work that we're doing with things like general message passing and so on and so forth, you can automate all of that, so users don't have to do their own routing and just have messages flow where they want them to go.
This is awesome. I love the direction this is going. So I'm bringing up that blog post again. There were a few use cases highlighted in there. I don't know if any of them are particularly interesting to go in here, but like I know we name checked a couple things. I personally, I'm biased here because I just kind of love the potential of non-fungible tokens. I'm curious about, like, maybe Sergey, your personal perspective on the potential of cross-chain non-fungible tokens, and maybe even the potential of integrating privacy with all of this. To your point, most of this matters to the end user. right? We want to create incredible end user experiences. NFTs are something that I think have a lot of potential to create a lot of end users in the Web3 space, which before we didn't necessarily have when the focus was exclusively on capital intensive DeFi applications. Do you have any thoughts on, applications you're personally excited about within the NFT vertical, or about how Axelar can fit into that stack?
Yeah, I mean, I am excited about NFTs very much so, right? I think we're just starting to scratch the surface of what can be done with it. I think some of the early kind of use cases, from auctioning it, right, to using it, to take a loan against it, to trade in it, I think they're incredibly kind of exciting. I think privacy plays a huge and important role with many of these applications, right, where you want to, you know, NFT is an asset, right? And it has certain properties with it, whether or not it's the graphics associated with it, right, or copyright and so on and so forth. Some features you're doing need to be private. Some features you're doing, may not have to be private. But given this power to the developers to build both of those options, I think is incredibly, exciting. And then kind of the end goal is of course to allow the user to use this NFT, across different ecosystems with the properties that they want, without having to think about, how it's moving around, right? What chain is it on? So you just want to say, okay, I have this NFT. I want to preserve, let's say, I don't know, the graphic associated with it for the next 24 hours, because I'm going to be, I don't know, trading it or running an auction against it. And then I want that graphic to be released, right? So it's kind of the properties that you can define in this auction. As an example, you can specify, the fields that need to be, private, or metadata, or whatever that is. You can run this auction and then, release certain information for everybody to see, as an example. And so having this programmability, having this distribution and flexibility for the users to do these types of applications, I think is, incredibly powerful.
Awesome. Yeah, Guy, thoughts on this issue as well? Obviously, SCRT Labs has done a ton with NFTs, including with Legend DAO. And of course, feel free to show that, because that was the other secret spaces we did this week. But your thoughts on cross-chain potential for NFTs, but of course also the influence of privacy.
I mean, I completely agree that we're only scratching the surface with NFTs right now, and I very much believe that the fact that blockchains are public in general is a bug, not a feature. I mean, it's a kind of like a necessity because of the consensus protocol and everything and the way the blockchains work. And then NFTs are an amazing technology that assign decentralized digital ownership. Which is not a very complicated idea, but it's like now with blockchains, we have the technology to actually do it in a decentralized way where everyone can verify it. And that in itself is amazing. But I do again think that like when you have ownership of something, if you ask any person on the street, and we've asked a lot of people, including very famous people, what does ownership mean? I mean, they don't say, oh, ownership is privacy. No, they don't. They say, ownership is about me having something that I can share with others or not, but it's my choice and it's my power. And that kind of like extra dimension, which in my opinion is critical for NFTs, and not just for NFTs, for GameFi and games and assets within games and much beyond that. That to me is the missing piece. And it's great how the secret ecosystem is evolving. It's great that we have a vibrant NFT ecosystem, but for many reasons, there are many other NFT ecosystems out there, much bigger than Secret Network, like on Ethereum, like on Solana, like on others. And there is no reason to go to projects, to go to users and tell them, no, here's the way, like here's the place where you can get private NFTs, and that's the only place that this could be. The equation needs to work backwards. It needs to be, it doesn't matter where you own your NFTs, where you mint them, where you do it, how you do it, which wallet you're using. You should know that there is a way to encapsulate private content in each NFT wherever you are. And at the end of the day, this is a mix of secret networks capabilities, bridging technology, and just great UX and wrapping it all very, very nicely so the user doesn't feel it. So to me, that's the end game. And although without the bridges, I'm going to give an example of what we're doing now, but then I kind of want to touch on it with a bridge. So for those who don't know, what we did this week, which in my opinion is completely revolutionary, is we deployed the first movie on the blockchain ever. So I think this is the first decentralized launch of a movie. This is the first time a movie is being put out or released not on a centralized streaming platform, not in cinema, not in network TV, but instead in a platform where no one can take it down, where no one kind of makes the decision. And clearly, the way this was done is by attaching the encrypted movie into each NFT, and then because of secret network properties, you and only you have the ability, if you got the NFT, to decrypt the movie and stream it. And one of the cool things we did there is that we really, really focused on user experience. I was actually skeptical in the beginning that we would be able to get to that kind of level of user experience, but I think we nailed it. And if you're interested, the mint is still going on. It's in KilroyWasHere.io. It's the newest movie by Kevin Smith, who's also a very well-known director, and it's the first movie released on the blockchain as an NFT. But today, if you want to go in and get it, like, you have to get a secret wallet, essentially, which is not that bad, but it's still a limiting factor in the UX. If there's like one limiting factor in the UX there, it's this. And ideally, it wouldn't have mattered, right? Like, ideally, this could have been minted in OpenSea, in Solana, wherever, and then on the website, in a click of a button, you would have been able to kind of like uncover the movie and watch it and stream it without even knowing that you're operating in secret network. And so that's the cool thing we did, but that's how I would want to see it, with integrating a more robust bridging solution, which is, now coming.
Sick. I mean, you guys know, if you've been to any secret space, I love all these use cases. I love what's been happening with all this experimentation across the cosmos, but especially on secret, where we have all of these awesome privacy features ready to go for any creator, for any collector to leverage. So definitely check out everything that's going on. The Kilroy Mint still live, as he said, at KilroyWasHere.io. Mint your own Kilroy. Go watch this awesome movie. I mean, it is so innovative to hear about this stuff. I mean, you got two incredibly innovative people and projects up on stage right now. Maybe to throw it back over to Axelar for a second. What else is in the works for Axelar then? Like, we've talked a little bit about what Axelar is enabling for Secret, what Secret's enabling for Axelar. I'm interested, like, is there anything else you guys have your eyes on right now, and that could benefit Secret in the future or not? Obviously, I think everything will benefit any chain that you guys are connecting to, but any really exciting features or research that people in this chat should be paying attention to, that they can start doing a little bit more research on as they dive deeper into the Axelar ecosystem?
Yeah, so I think like the big feature that we started to roll out a little over a month ago, and we'll continue rolling out, is this notion of general message passing, right? So the idea is that how do you allow users to interact with all of these properties of a given network without them having to be kind of human routers, right? And so the way to do that is by passing kind of a code or computation to a specific ecosystem, executing some actions, right, and then return it back. So this is a notion of general message passing. We extended it across EVM chains, and as the next step, we're going to be plugging in the composition of that with the Cosmos ecosystem through the IBC and interchain accounts. So kind of more information will be coming on that over the coming month as well. So yeah, take a look, check it out. You can play with the docs or sample examples, and I think this is like super powerful primitive that allows us to again, like bring compute to the assets or vice versa. And, I think that will enable very new types of experiences for the users.
Awesome. Same question kind of back at Guy. There might be some users here from the Axelar ecosystem who haven't been necessarily paying as close attention to Secret. Clearly, we've got a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline on the DApp layer, but also at layer 1 that are some fundamental improvements. I also know that you personally and also the rest of the team have been doing research into other ways we can be strengthening the privacy technology behind Secret using whatever's best in class available, right? Would be really curious. I want you to answer that. I also am going to mention this is also the time you can start putting up your hands in the audiences if you've got questions for the Axelar team or for Guy from the Secret side. Start putting up your hands because we're going to start bringing you up on stage. But Guy, that question goes back to you about what you see in the Secret ecosystem that probably people aren't paying enough attention to, but you're really excited about as a next step for the evolution of the network.
There are several layers to this. Let's say the engineering level and improvement that we're doing that are extremely hard and are long processes, but we are, we've been making like a lot of headway in terms of closing the gap between private compute efficiency and non-private compute, and we actually have like a really really strong solid plan for the next like 6 to 12 months, which will pretty much at the end of it bring Secret with its private compute engine pretty much on par with any other system. And there are some tricks up our sleeve that are even could even take it beyond. That's something that we're very focused on right now. And I think laser focused and bear market is a good opportunity to actually focus on these kind of infrastructure things. The other thing, I'm very like I touched 5 minutes ago, I am very interested about this whole idea of future of content. So obviously there's DeFi applications, Secret gives you front-runner resistance, it gives you private tokens for everything. So pretty much anything that is now being made available by Axelar and can be bridged to Secret can be made private instantly. It's pretty amazing. But moving beyond like these very useful but very elementary use cases, I'm, for example, I'm very interested in the future of content distribution, content fundraising, kind of like what we did with Kevin Smith. To me, that could be generalized into a system that is basically a decentralized studio, a decentralized Netflix, a decentralized Spotify, basically a platform that connects artists and creators much more closely with their audience, and there are no intermediaries, right? Everything is done through Secret NFTs. I'm an artist, I release a new album, and it's launched on chain. There's no gatekeeper, centralized servers. It's all on IP. The content is encrypted on IPFS. The access mechanisms are facilitated through Secret's privacy engine. And essentially what that means is that artists can share new content and even fundraise for new content and even sell IP directly through Secret NFTs on chain and make sure that it's harder to copy. Let's say it's like much more closer to the normal ecosystem. So that's something I foresee coming. We've had several, let's say, studios, producers, directors, like some of them actually very famous, reach out to us about this, and there's a lot of interest there, and I'm very excited about that. And then the third layer is the research layer, and I think, and this is something that we need to do a lot of education work. Secret today is like the one biggest and actually the only functional general purpose private compute layer in the internet, in Web3 and in Web 2, which is already amazing, but there are a lot of improvements to be made. And people often, throw around things like, oh, don't use trusted execution environments, use zero knowledge proofs, or use polymorphic encryption or MPC. And those people are usually just parroting stuff that they've heard online. But those things they don't stand alone. Every system, every protocol has its trade-offs. And if you actually ever have taken like a system, an implemented system, an implemented secure system, or even a paper, and you read through it, you would see that all of these are tools and techniques, and each one of them can be used to augment each other. And that's something I'm very curious about. I'm not curious about using the next buzzword like, hey, we're going to use fully homomorphic encryption after T's, because that's useless, that's meaningless, that's buzzword. I am interested in seeing how secret can be at the forefront of private computes research and implementation at every step of the way. And the way to do that is at every step of the way to see how can you compose these different tools that we have from secure systems into what we're building. And I'll finalize with one interesting example that I'm very curious about. Federated learning is a fairly efficient way, for example, to do distributed machine learning that allows you to protect the privacy of the underlying data. I actually think that integrated in the right way, for example, into secret network, could actually improve the solutions that I've seen proposed until today. And more importantly, if you build something like that on chain, then suddenly we may actually have an application that allows people to contribute their data securely and then kind of help train the world's first, let's say, open neural network. So those are like kind of the things that excite me going forward beyond like the immediate NFTs, GameFi, DeFi, all of that. I think that's going to take a bit of time. But hey, we're in a bear market. This is the time to explore these, and I'm excited about that.
Now, hold on. Let's be clear. It's a bear market, but also it could end at any time. That's how this space works. And at any time, demand rushes back into the space, we want to have the best possible privacy, the best possible bridging available at that time. So I agree with you. It's awesome that we have this foresight on the research side. It's awesome to see this continue to get explored by SCRT Labs and others in our ecosystem. But yeah, the theme is always like, what can we do for users today? And I think I'm blown away with what's already possible, including with the Kilroy drop and the NFT streaming. Like it's crazy shit. So yes, amazing tomorrow, but definitely amazing today. Really just cool to see all of this finally starting to come together for Cosmos users. And hopefully Axelar just helps more people discover Secret, and Secret helps more people discover the power of cross-chain bridging and message passing as well.
I'm actually going to touch Kilroy again in the sense that if you haven't checked it out, you need to check it out, because in my opinion, this is like the best example how a decentralized system with privacy, with encryption, with all that, just gives you better, like just gives you a UX that is comparable to a Web2 system, which is something that if you've been long enough in the space is not something you expect. So I don't know, I just find that pretty astounding.
It is pretty astounding, the whole thing. And I've really enjoyed learning more on this space about Axelar as well, and about the foresight and the vision there. I mean, it's kind of incredible to think these projects have been around and people have been thinking about these issues for so long, like seeing the issues before the issues and then having built the solutions right when they're needed. I know we both have experienced like being a little too early on the issues, even before people were caring about interoperability and privacy. People were working on these issues, and we were shipping by both projects, maybe still even now before people are caring about these issues enough. But I guess that's why it's so wonderful to be able to work together on these things and think through them together, is because we need people who are anticipating the problems of the future today, but also building the solutions of today. So again, please raise your hands if you got questions for these guys. They're both geniuses. They're both up on stage. We have them for at least another 10 or 15 minutes before we wrap up. We do these usually for about an hour. Secret Spaces we'll do regularly on Tuesdays. Today is a special session with the Axelar team if you're just joining. Also, if you're just joining, one more time, giving that call to action, we do a special badge for every Secret Space that we're hosting now. Today is no exception. There's a special badge designed. You can go claim it using the pinned tweet. It will tell you how to do it. You will need a special claim code. That special claim code is Cross-chain, CROSSCHAIN. Type it in, claim your secret badge. There is something really cool in the private metadata. So once you claim your secret badge, only you will be able to see that special message from the Secret and Axelar teams. So go claim your badge, decrypt that metadata, go check it out. It's fun. And again, it's something enabled today on mainnet by all this technology. Maybe not as powerful as connecting every blockchain in the world, maybe not as powerful as streaming entire movies through the magic of Web3, but still a fun way to get your hands on what privacy can mean in a Web3 context. So again, put your hands up if you've got questions for these guys. I only had so much planned, really, because I know a lot, but I'm learning a lot being up here. It really is kind of an open format for the rest of this. So since you guys have a little bit of shared history, if there's anything else that you guys want to talk about, I'm going to bring one question up here on stage from NorCal Crypto, but anything else you guys want to talk about is fair game. NorCal, you're up on stage now. If you want to go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you for all your work. Some of this stuff, most of it's over my head, but privacy is a big concern of mine. I know that the blockchain is transparent, and I don't know if that's always good when it comes to finance. So the fact that this could conceivably carry over all blockchains or many blockchains, that's incredible. And I did sign up for to stay in the loop at Axelar, I believe it is. So thank you.
Thank you, man. Cool. Messages of gratitude also appreciated. Anybody else who's got questions, or if anybody's here, I mean, throw some emojis out there too. If you're from the Axelar ecosystem and this is your first time hearing about any of this stuff, feel free to throw a little heart emoji out. If you're from the secret ecosystem and this is your first time hearing a lot of the intricacies of Axelar, you can throw a little clap emoji out for those of you who like the interactive portion of Spaces on Twitter. Hopefully it doesn't crash your apps because Twitter Spaces are like that sometimes, but just really cool to have enough people in the room listening to these things. They all do get posted as well afterwards. So if you've got friends who wanted to come but couldn't, we will be uploading all of this to YouTube. You'll be able to stream it back, hear some of the alpha that got leaked from both sides. Sergey, since you're the special guest, is there anything else you want to be telling everybody in the audience about what's coming up for Axelar, where they can follow the project, social channels you want them to join, if they want to become a bigger part of the community or discover some Axelar-based dApps? This is a great forum for all of that, and people will be able to reference it in future as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thanks. Good starting place is to go to our website, axelar.network. You can follow us on Twitter at Axelar Core. And there's a link to a Discord. There's a vibrant developer channel, kind of testnet channel, so you can kind of go from there, play with the code, and kind of learn the power of cross-chain.
Amazing. Well, Guy?
Yeah, Sergey, if you don't mind, I kind of want to interject and ask a question.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you mentioned that as part of your background, you took a big part in Algorand, and then obviously now you're building Axelar, and the Axelar at the backbone is kind of like a hub built on Cosmos SDK. And I'm kind of curious, like, can you tell a bit about that journey, right? Because like you were on another proof of stake system, which I'm sure you knew very, very well, potentially much better than Cosmos in the beginning, and kind of like how was that decision making? Like what was the decision making there?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we kind of shipped Algorand, to the mainnet, I think we in parallel saw just many other, beautiful ecosystems being built. I think, about 6 months after the launch of Algorand, one of our problems that we started to think about, how do we connect Algorand with other, chains and with other protocols? And, it's not that we could take something kind of off the shelf and, give it a go, right? Kind of IBC was still in the early days, but also kind of as a protocol, it would require us to, rewrite large parts of the consensus. So that wasn't really kind of an option. It would take a couple of years to do that. And yeah, we were looking for, a solution ideally. Nothing was really available. and looking at other chains being built with very different consensus stacks, with very different smart contract stacks. We kind of understood that there is going to need to be a chain agnostic way to unite all of these different ecosystems that is not specific to like clients or consensus protocols or a specific software stack. And that was the motivation for starting Axelar, right? Being chain agnostic, being neutral, connecting anybody that wants to be connected. And kind of Tendermint, Consensus, and Cosmos SDK in particular was pretty attractive to start with because it allowed us to customize this cross-chain protocol, from the ground up. And that's what we have done, right? So kind of the Axelar network itself, there is this cross-chain protocol that's powered by the Tendermint consensus. There are special rules for, finality, kind of multi-party sign-in, rewards, incentives, and everything else. And so we needed really a flexible platform that we could work with. And, Tendermint and Cosmos made a lot of sense. And so the community is, of course, very supportive of interoperability, connectivity. So kind of a lot of the folks, helped us kind of answer some of the questions that we didn't know at the beginning. So that was incredibly, grateful as well to kind of help us jumpstart.
Awesome. Thank you. That was lingering in there for a while.
Nice.
I got one more guy up on stage with Red-Eyed Bear. Hopefully he's got a question for you guys.
Hey guys, thank you for giving me a chance to speak. And before I ask my question, I just want to thank both Guy and Sergey for joining this Spaces to talk to us today and give us a little bit of extra educational information. My main question is and this is for anybody who isn't aware of the other bridging projects available and building within the Cosmos. What are the main differences between Axelar and some of the other bridging solutions such as Nomic or Gravity Bridge currently building within the Cosmos? And what is it about what Axelar is doing that piques secret networks' interest the most?
Yeah, I mean, I could start, from our side, the main, differentiators. I think if you look at a lot of the architectures, especially the ones that are built in the kind of Cosmos ecosystem, like the ones you mentioned, kind of Gravity and Nomic, they're really designed as kind of a pairwise one-off, connections or bridges to specific ecosystems, which is fine. But I think what we're trying to do with Axelar is really creating kind of, like I mentioned, like as a transport layer, right, that it allows you to have many-to-many connectivity. So it's not just pairwise, it's not just one-to-one, it is many-to-many. And, if you look at like AxelarScan.io, for instance, you will see like 15 different ecosystems being connected right now, right? Everything from, Polkadot to Ethereum and, Cosmos and Secret. And so you have very, very strong networking effects. You have very, very strong kind of connectivity effects with robust kind of security on the back end. And that's what we're trying to do.
That's phenomenal. Thank you for that.
Awesome. We got about 5 minutes left. Anything else that our two speakers on stage want to ask each other? Since Guy, you got one off. I don't know, Sergey, if you've got any questions for Guy or anything else you guys want to talk about while we still have the privilege of having you here, even though Guy just disappeared from the stage briefly. But what were you going to say, Sergey?
So the question was, I know, Secret is using kind of SGX technology right now, and, there's like deep research around that and many other techniques. I'm curious if you guys have looked at, some of the other secure enclave technologies, like from AMD or other providers. How do you think about them? How do they fit in your roadmap?
We have a bit, very, very insignificantly, I'd say. We've explored, I'd say, 2 solutions so far. One of them more a bit academically. We didn't really see the benefit yet there, or at least not a reason to push that forward in our roadmap. And maybe this is dropping alpha a bit, but let's say one of the, you can imagine there are right now about like 3, 4, or 5 like cheap, big cheap production companies that have developed production enclaves, put in open source solutions that are more like prototype level aside. One of them reached out to us. We started to look into that more seriously, and that is something we're examining. I don't know when that would become a thing, but that is an avenue that we're looking into right now. Yeah, I do think that there are benefits in the multi-enclave system. Um, Not going to go into the technicalities, but obviously it's more redundancy, and it's a better solution, better system. And I don't think that's going to be tomorrow, but I think in a few years' time, definitely we'll have support of multiple enclaves. And I also think that in a few years' time, we're going to start seeing a lot of open source version, like based on RISC-V, that are, building their own enclaves. And then we won't be kind of limited to a system where it's like just the big players like Intel, AMD, Apple, but it would actually be a much more like open game, and the open source community would be able to kind of attack them and build solutions and iterate much faster. That's my hope. That's my hope that in like a few years we would actually have a lot more enclaves to choose from as well.
Cool. Good thorough answer. I brought one more question up here on stage. We'll wrap up with this one. I have Pieman up here. Pieman.
Hey, thank you so much. I really learned a lot from the space. I have a question about secret network and front-running protection mechanism. I really couldn't find any more details on the website. So I was wondering that, like, as a DeFi protocol in Ethereum, what's the cost to integration of our protocol with secret network to prevent front-running in Ethereum, and also what's the overhead of secret network for using, for protocols? Like, what's the delay in processing? How many blocks? And these stuff.
Yeah, I think we're a few months from making it very viable. I think we're maybe a bit more by making it like almost for free, right? Like as soon as like it becomes viable, like through Axelar, and as soon as there are like a few building blocks that make the UX very, very smooth, and developers have like kind of like a blueprint to follow, I think there would be, I don't think there would be a choice. And actually there's one very, very exciting project that is building on Ethereum right now, but are gonna uniquely use secret networks functionality for a special kind of auctioning mechanism. I'm really excited about that. It's also related to NFTs, and that's an example. And I think like, let's say when we do this again a year from now, it would be a very, very easy sell.
Thank you so much.
All right, good place to wrap up then. Guy, thank you for joining us. We thank Sergey. Everybody remember to follow Guy if you don't already. He drops these gems all the time in writing, if not in voice. So we appreciate his connection lasting long enough to hit us with the alpha. Please follow the Secret Network account if you don't. This is where we announce all our secret spaces. We got another one coming up on the 19th, our usual, on Tuesdays. So that'll be the 19th of July. Remember, if you haven't claimed your badge for attending today's space, please click the pinned tweet inside Secret Spaces. You can go now, click through to the link to be able to go claim your secret badge. Today's code is cross-chain, all caps, all one word, cross-chain. You can claim your badge, get a special message from the Secret and Axelar teams thanking you for attending today's space. Guys, really wonderful to have you all here. And Guy, thank you again for making the time. We appreciate it. All right, see you guys next week, Secret Spaces.